Hi children, good morning. Welcome to our next lesson. In last lesson you learned about different kinds of plants and what are the different parts of a plants and their functions you learned very well, right? And in today's class, the other living organisms surround us on this planet Earth. Apart from the plants, what are the other living organisms living along with human beings and plants? Those are animals. So in today's class we are going to discuss about the organisms around us. So in your lesson number 9, the living organisms, in your lesson number 9 you are reading about living organisms around us. Living organisms around us and their adaptations we are going to learn. So here, before understanding this topic, you should do one small activity. Here what you are supposed to do is go around your house, in your colony, any park or else any garden, or else just go for a walk in your street and find out what are the different types of plants or the different types of living organisms like animals. What are the different types of animals, different types of plants, different types of insects, small organism to very big organisms. What all you are able to see, you make a list of those organisms in a notebook. Make a list, tabular column you make, and serial number 1, what organism you observed, and write its name. Like that, you collect some living organisms in your area. Collect means only the names. Write the names of the organisms which live in your locality, in your region, in your street, in your area. What are the different living organisms are there? Write their names. And compare this list with your friends who are staying in so far distance from you. Or else if possible, the people who are living in the desert areas like Rajasthan and all, if your friends are there, you ask them to do the same type of activity and compare your living organisms list with the person who is living in the desert, very hot areas. And in the same way, if a person living in very cool areas, okay, like Jammu and Kashmir, and you just compare the list what you have, the living organisms, is it same with the person who is living in the Jammu and Kashmir with a very cool climate and the Rajasthani people who have very hot climate. If you are unable to contact the people, you can even just take the chart of that. The living organisms can live in the hot areas like Rajasthan. If you type, you can get a chart and you compare your living organisms with that which are living in the very hot regions, at the same time which are living in the very cool regions. Is it same? No, not at all, right? So your surroundings, your environment is totally different from the cool areas, from the hot areas. So the organisms which are living around you are suitable to this environment. So now we will see the meaning of environment. What's the meaning of environment? The environment is nothing but the surroundings around you. The surroundings which are there around you. So based on these surroundings only, the organisms varies from your environment a special type of organisms can live. In very hot regions, the other type of organisms will live. In cool regions, some different organisms can live. So an environment means what actually it consists of. What will be in the environment? It's made up by two things. One is biotic things. The other one is abiotic things. What's the meaning of biotic things? Environment is made up of biotic and abiotic things. Then what's the meaning of biotic? Biotic means the living organisms which are present in that surroundings. Like plants, all the plants and animals which are there in a region, they comes under the biotic things. And the abiotic things means non-living things. Biotic are living things. Biotic means living things, whereas abiotic means non-living things like the water, soil, air and sunlight, humidity, temperature, all these things comes under abiotic things. When these two things mix up, it's making up an environment. So based on the environment, the living organisms can live in that area. So that habitat, according to that habitat, the organisms are able to survive in that particular habitat. Then what's the meaning of a habitat? What's the meaning of a habitat? Habitat means the place where the animals are living, where the living organisms are living. Actually where they can live. So the habitat means where the organisms, where the different organisms are living. Their own home, that is. They can live. The actual place where an organism can live is known as its habitat. So a habitat means it has to provide good food for the organisms. It should provide the shelter for organisms, and it also should give the proper requirements to increase their species. So when it has all these requirements, all these facilities, then the organisms can survive in that particular habitat. For example, in desert habitats, in desert places, the environment, the climate or the environment is very harsh environment, very little rainfall. And if I ask you to draw a desert, I'll give you 5 minutes time. Here to understand about the habitat, you can do one more activity. I'll give you 5 minutes time to you. You just take your pen and your science notebook on white page. You draw a desert. Whatever comes in your mind when I say a desert word, what all are the things you are recollecting, just put on the paper. Yes, I think you're almost completed. So what things are coming into your mind when I say the word desert? Definitely you might have drawn the sand, completely sand, and camels, and cactus plants. Yes, these are the things, and hot, scorching sun, and very little oasis, water where little oasis will be in the desert. So these things only you might have remembered when I say the desert to draw. Yes, so it's having very little rainfall. So area will be very hot and dry conditions. So in this harsh environment, can all the organisms can survive there? What all the organisms are we able to see in our region? Can we see the same organisms there? They could not. They could not survive because the organisms which are living in any habitat will show some characters. Any habitat you take, the organisms which are living in that particular habitat will show some characters. They have some special characteristics. Every habitat, the organisms which are living in that particular habitat will show some special characteristics. So, these characteristics are only known as adaptations. We are calling them as adaptations. Adaptations means they will bring some changes in them according to the environment, according to the habitat where they are living. They will show some special characteristics known as adaptations. So there are different habitats like terrestrial habitats, grassland habitats, desert habitats. Like this different habitats we have, and the different living organisms are living there. They are showing different adaptations. Now we'll discuss about the desert and grassland areas, grassland habitats, and what type of adaptations the organisms living there will show. I'll show you by the PPT. You will understand more better. So you learned about the habitat, children. Habitat means actually where the animals and plants and different living organisms are living. That's known as habitat. So depending upon their habitat, depending upon their environment, the organisms which are living in that habitat show some special characters. So according to the changing environment, they show some special characters. Among themselves, what are the changes they are requiring to survive in that particular environment are known as adaptations. Adaptations means the changes which they are acquiring. Any living organism according to their environment where they are living. For example, if you take this beetle, it lives in dry conditions, dry and humid conditions. In such areas to survive, it has a tough coating on the body. This tough coat of the beetle helps to survive in dry conditions. So this is one of the adaptation which the beetle acquired due to its surroundings, due to its environment factor. A tough coat is developed on its body. If it couldn't develop a tough coat, it will become very difficult for beetle to survive in hot, dry conditions. So the change which occurred in beetle is known as an adaptation. So because of this adaptation, the beetle is surviving in hot and dry conditions. So adaptation is nothing but depending upon their habitat, depending on their environment, the changes which the living organisms are acquiring for their survival known as adaptations. So about these adaptations, we are going to read more in coming classes, and depending on the habitat, the adaptations living organisms are acquiring. So we are also going to discuss about the different habitats. What are the different habitats and what type of adaptations the living organisms are showing in that particular habitat we are going to discuss. So generally two types of habitats we have. One is terrestrial habitat, one is aquatic habitat. Terrestrial habitat means the organisms which are living on land comes under terrestrial habitat. Again, the terrestrial habitat have different types like grassland habitat, desert habitat, mountain habitat. So like this different types of habitats, and the different organisms can able to survive in those habitats. In detail we are going to discuss in our coming classes. And aquatic habitat means the organisms which live in water, and the changes are the adaptations what they acquired to survive in the water. Those are known as aquatic adaptations. So in the sea, in fresh water, the organisms which are living in the seas and freshwater lakes, and what type of adaptations they are showing in detail we will discuss in coming classes. So here one more process which the animals are adapting is known as camouflage. Camouflage means animals will blend in their surroundings. They'll merge in their surroundings to get protect from their predators. They will merge in the surroundings where they are living. For example, this is a red color leaves and petals, the plant which have completely red in color. And are you able to spot a butterfly here? The butterfly which is on this plant is also in the red color, having red color wings and a black color margins on this. So by this, the predators which eat these butterflies cannot be identified by their predators. It is merging with the surroundings. It's blending in their surroundings. So for the predators, it will be difficult to identify this butterfly. And some more examples on camouflage we'll discuss now. Here, an insect. Are you able to see an insect here? It's totally like looking like a stem of the plant. The color of this insect is equal to the color of the stem. So the color of the insect is merging with the stem color. Actually here the insect is there. Are you able to find this insect where I am moving the cursor? This is actually an insect. So it's adopting the color of this stem, and it's all of a sudden when we see, we couldn't even find this insect which is staying on the stem. So this is one type of camouflage why these animals are acquiring the adaptation of camouflage. Why they are showing the character of camouflage means to escape from their predators. The animals which eat the other animal known as predator. So to escape from them, they are merging or blending with their surroundings. And now one more example for the camouflage when you see the plant snakes. The snakes which have the color of the snake is like green in color. So when the snake is staying on a plant, it cannot be spotted by the other organism because its color is equal to the leafy color. So it couldn't be easily find out by its predator. So this snake is showing the camouflage character. And one more, chameleon. You are very familiar with chameleon. It changes the color according to the surrounding where it's living. If it is in the shade, it shows the shade color. If it is under the sun, it shows around the surroundings what type of color they have. It is able to show that color. So the pigments which are there in their skin are helping to get a camouflage
show the camouflage according to the surroundings. So all the organisms are showing these adaptations because to survive in the nature, to continue their species in nature, to survive, to live on this planet Earth, they are showing n number of adaptations. So the animals or the organisms whichever shows camouflage or the tough coat like a beetle, these all are different adaptations the living organisms are showing in our surroundings. So in coming class we'll discuss about desert, mountains and terrestrial habitats and the organisms which live in terrestrial areas and their adaptations we are going to discuss in detail today. So in today's class you learned about what's the meaning of environment and what is the environment made up of and meaning of biotic things, abiotic things and the meaning of habitat meaning you learned and what are the adaptations means you learned and you also learned about different camouflage and meaning and you had seen the different pictures of camouflage animals which can show the characteristic of camouflage you learned. So in today's class, finally you do the homework. Your today's homework is identify in your surroundings, collect some names of the organisms which are surviving in your locality. Make a tabular column and write their names. If possible, compare your list with the other school children who are staying far from your school and compare the environment, the characters of those animals or those organisms in their school. Okay, children?